honestly, if all this content, if Undrafted helps one kid come to know the Lord, perfect. If it's 1,000, awesome. All I can do is just control what I can.
Welcome back to the No Days Off pod. Your co-host Nick here with John, and we have a special guest today, a former teammate of mine for a short amount of time, but a special amount of time. Developed a brotherhood to where we still stay in touch. I was just on his pod. We have Josh Wells, a 10-year NFL veteran. Went to James Madison University, go Dukes. Played in 95 regular season games. He was a part of winning Super Bowl 55 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's married to Morgan. He's a father of 3 like myself. So I know you're in the dad season mode. You're doing undrafted coaching and a lot of different things. So we're about to get into it. But I want to start out with a hot question. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you sort of build it up. And I was thinking about this episode. It's man, you're a Super Bowl champ. We were teammates when I signed in Jacksonville. You had already been there for several years, and you had a good year there. But it's most of the time a grind. But then you get to go to Tampa Bay, and you get to be a part of winning a Super Bowl. And everyone wants to know about those mountaintop experiences. What was it like, winning that Super Bowl, the day of, going through that, and then the moments after that Super Bowl? What were the feelings that you went through during that time?
Yeah, it was an interesting year. It was COVID. Feels like an eternity ago, but it was mask, distancing, trackers, all the stuff. So it wasn't the normal experience. So it felt super normal because we played at our home stadium. We got to stay in our houses. We went to the hotel the night before, but none of the go to a new city, stay for a week, media. So it really felt normal. There was some pregame stuff, but once you get in the game, it just feels like a normal game. Afterwards was awesome. I mean, just my daughter on the field, my wife on the field, celebrating all the things. Go out that night, stay out super late, have a great time with friends. And then you talk about being a dad. I go to sleep at 3 a.m., 2 a.m., whatever it was. And then my kids wake me up at 7 a.m. and want to go to the park.
Yeah.
Don't even.
This is the day after the Super Bowl.
They don't have any idea. Well, they don't even care. And I'm pushing my daughter on a swing at the park. I don't know, 4 hours after I got home from going to a party. So, man, as high as it was, I look back, it was the journey to get there. The game was awesome. And then the next day, I'm just pushing her on the swing as a Super Bowl champ, but as a dad, So it was awesome.
Yeah, I think that's what people don't realize is, and even players in the game, sometimes it's tough after the game where you win this game, it's something you've worked for your entire life, and it's a dream, right? It's a dream to go through it, and then life continues onward. I mean, very quickly for you with going to the park, and it was so unique because I believe – y'all were the first Super Bowl that got to play in your home stadium, and it was ironically during the COVID season, and that is strange. I didn't even think of it that way, where the Super Bowl hoopla of the media, the weeks before, everything you go through, going to a different city for a week, having to adjust, having different meeting rooms, everything was really normal. And then to win it in your home stadium in your home city, and then you have the parade there, and I saw a lot of clips from the parade. It looked like everyone had a really good time there.
Yeah, boat parade was awesome. But to your point, where we're cruising around the boats, people are kayaking beside the boats, going crazy like they do at the parades. And then we dock the boat, get off, so GM, head coach can speak, and Tom and some of those guys talk. And the GM, who's awesome, Jason, but gives a speech, and he's all right, boys, on to the next one. And immediately it's let's try to go win it again. And then free agency, you're a free agent, let me get signed back. And so it was 3 days of, celebrate that you're oh man, I need a job next year, So yeah, it goes so quick, and it's awesome to look back at. But to your point, it just moves on.
It is funny that you can do something like that, bring a Super Bowl to the city, and it's not enough sometimes, right? I mean, it's hard to, there's people that just can't take it in and enjoy the moment, on to the next one. I feel we had the same thing, and, the Eagles just won this year, had an amazing season, so they got their second. But I remember a few days after our Super Bowl 52, and I'm in Philadelphia, I'm in the weight room, and I was just had so much adrenaline, and I just played some pickleball with one of my, he was one of the assistant coaches, Spencer Phillips, who now coaches high school ball. and we were lifting weights. I just had so much adrenaline, and I think I ran into Howie Roseman during that time, and he's like, "Man, let's go get another one. Let's go get another one." I don't even think we had the parade yet, and we're
Yeah.
already thinking. And this was the first Super Bowl in franchise history, and I'm just sitting there like, man, I still feel everything from the game, the emotions of the week, the soreness from the season, and we're talking about
Yeah.
doing another one. It just shows you, and we'll get into the faith aspect of life later,
Yeah.
because we both, follow Christ and we believers. That was a big part of our relationship at that short time in Jacksonville. But just realizing like these things that we seek after, these mountaintop experiences, when you receive them, they're awesome, they're really special,
Yeah.
and you remember them, but they're not going to truly fulfill your heart, because you're always going to want more and you're going to want to feel that feeling again, and that's where faith comes in. But I just want to start there, but it really began way before that. I'm gonna go back to James Madison, when you were with the
Yeah.
Dukes and you had a great
Yeah.
career there, and it's sort of that starting point is sort of where you are with undrafted coaching. But talk about like your time in college and then leading up to the NFL, because I mean, we just talked about like the greatest mountaintop experience a football player can have with winning a Super Bowl, but it all started before James Madison. But I want to start there. But what was it like there? Like, what was your journey going through college ball? Like, did you have the aspirations of playing in the NFL, or like what was your mindset throughout that time, and what was your work ethic like?
Yeah. So to your point, I walked on to college. I was like a walk on. I had 2 walk on opportunities, James Madison and Richmond. Where I grew up, Richmond was 10 minutes away. JMU was 2 hours. I was like, I could go 2 hours away, 15 minutes, a little close. So I get there and no scholarship. And my dad told me when I left, he's like, every time we've got a little bit of money and we can apply for financial aid and that can get you through a certain time, but everybody you line up against has your scholarship and you've got to take it from them. And if you don't take it from them, that's all right. You're just going to have to come home. We're going to have to figure something else out. So I just went in. I was not in the mindset of like, I'm trying to make it to the NFL. I was in the mindset of like, get a scholarship so I can keep playing college football. And so I would, man, like, especially I walked on as a tight end, then I played D-line, then I eventually moved to O-line. Some adversity there. I got moved to O-line. I was in the dining hall and they told me, I started crying. And like, look, it's hilarious. It's funny to say now, but like, I was like, man, I called my dad. I'm out of here. This is before transfer portal. You can play right away. I was like, dude, I'm out of here. Get me out of here. And he's like, no, you're going to stick it out. Like, this is where you're at. I'd earned about like 50% scholarship in a year. And he was like, you got 50% paid for? I don't care. If you play in the NFL, I don't care if you play. You're sticking it out and you're doing it. But yeah, long story short, I eventually earned full scholarship. They were like, if you can get on the field and play, we'll pay for you to go to school. And it wasn't in my work ethic was outwork everyone. And that's one thing about my dad and how I grew up that he modeled for me more than anything. He's the hardest working dude I know. And I know a lot of guys that can say it about their dad, but I truly believe it. I'm like, I've always saw it modeled, so I did it. But I earned a scholarship, started playing offensive line. And then like my junior year, I had a good year and teams are like, oh, like, the junior day and all this stuff where they kind of come and talk to you. So I started to realize, man, I've got some ability to do this. But I was the guy in the weight room. They had the racks lined up along the mirror, and there's like 10 racks, and the strongest guys were down on the far rack, and it kind of went down by like who lifted the most. So I moved on. Like, I would just go to the strong rack, and I was not strong enough to be down there. And I was like, I'm going to lift with what you got. Like, and eventually it just comes over, and then you are one of the stronger guys, and you're down there. So, yeah, I mean, college was awesome, but it's not all glamorous. There's times where I'm not on scholarship. I paid with a $5 footlong when Subway was promoting all that stuff with like the change in my card. I kid you not. I got declined with my card. Called my parents. They're like, we get paid Thursday, and it was like Monday, and they're like, you got to figure something out. So I went my Explorer, pulled out some change, and paid for a $5 footlong. And so things like that, man, I look back at now, and I'm super grateful for it because wasn't handed to me, worked for it, and then thankfully was blessed enough to be able to have an opportunity to play.
That's awesome. That's an incredible story. Where'd you find the drive to keep showing up every day, even when it was really hard?
Yeah, like I said, I just go back to my dad. And it's kind of wild. My journey with faith and my walk with the Lord really didn't start till probably more my second year in the NFL. So looking back, man, I have to realize I didn't have prayer, I didn't have faith, I didn't have a relationship with the Lord through it all. I just would always fall back onto my strength. Like I can do it by myself. I saw my dad do it. He can, he just got up and did it even when he didn't feel like it. I don't remember being sick, or maybe he was, he just didn't show it. And then I just was like, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And eventually that's what the Lord used to bring me to himself my second year. It was like I thought I could do it all myself and I felt like I did. And then I got there and I'm like, oh man, I've got everything I thought I ever wanted and I have nothing. So yeah, just honestly role models, my father, and then just refusing to quit, going through adversities and just continuing being told you can't do it and like trying to prove people wrong when really it's an exhausting thing to do, but that's kind of what I fed off of early on.
No, that's truly amazing. I mean, we've talked about it on episodes before where, a lot of, we take the high functioning individuals. I mean, being a 10-year NFL vet, Super Bowl champ, a guy who's grinded it out, a walk on in college at JMU, earning a scholarship. Like you said, I'm even learning more about yourself right now, just not having the money to even, do the things you need to do, but you're just continuing to have that work ethic. And it just shows you as parents out there that listen to this, it's not always, what you're saying and but your kids are always watching you. Mm-hmm. They're watching every single thing you do. And I know there's a lot of parents that can't be around their kids as much as they want to because they're working hard. But it's when they can be around their kids that they make that time intentional. But also your kids are watching you. Yep. They're watching every single thing you do. So if you're showing them love, when you're around them, you're being intentional, but like you're out there working and you're grinding and they see that, you're honestly impacting them in a positive way. You're a testament to that. I'm a testament to that. I talked about my dad in the restaurant business and how he would always be at the restaurant. My mom, when I was young, was working at 3M, so they were both working to provide for us. But I always remembered their childhood, how they had tough childhoods and didn't have the things that they provided us with, myself and my sisters. But I always remembered their work ethic and what they did. Yep. And it, that was a huge representation. So anyone listening, like that's a big thing. Like it's not only what you say, but it's like what you do that your children are watching. That's so impactful. So that's awesome, man. I know that you're such a great role model for your kids now, you and Morgan, and I know that's a big part of what you do, but I think the big thing too, you talked about JMU and then going undrafted in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
What was that like? I mean, you walk on at JMU, you go to Dukes, you earn your way, you start as a tight end. How many catches you have at JMU? You get any catches at tight end?
No catches.
Any catches in the NFL?
I had a couple no. I had I'm like 10 routes, no catches, but
you were that blocking tight end.
And blocking tight end. Well, I was scout team tight end, and then went to D-line. I had a couple tackles, had a fumble recovery.
Oh, yeah.
I was just, whatever. And then moved to O-line. I was like unathletic tight end, decent D-lineman. Then I was like, oh, O-line, I can actually be the athletic guy finally.
Yeah.
So kind of moved around.
No, I think that's the big thing too. But then it's crazy, though, when you go to the NFL and – we all know how it is sometimes. I mean, you're an amazing story of someone who's undrafted that has an amazing career and has a lot of success. And, not only that, but a great teammate, a guy that people enjoyed being around, that, you would fill in where the O-line needed, when the O-line needed. And you weren't always, I think I had it down here, 95 games played, but 24 games started. So you were always like right there to fill in. I remember that even being in Jacksonville, you were always earning your spot, even like entering the veteran phase and going to Tampa Bay. But every time you were called on, I remember even watching you in Tampa Bay and, just playing. I'm like, man, like Josh is the guy that like when he's called on, you can trust him to go in there. He's going to get the job done. He's going to execute. He's going to give you everything he has, and he cares for his teammates. And that's a big thing to have, but it all starts with the work ethic that you developed and the time you put in and the belief, because most people in your shoes would probably give up a long time ago, especially when you don't have the money to pay for what you need to pay for, and then you're grinding and trying to figure it out. But just for all those people out there too that, going undrafted in the NFL is not easy. And then it's usually it's an uphill battle throughout your time in the NFL because, we all know if you're a top pick in the draft, you're going to get a lot of opportunities because everyone's just waiting for all that analysis going up to the draft when you're a first or second round pick to like pay off if, there's the bust or whatever it is. But when you're undrafted, it's a grind. Just talk about that grind and like how you handled that grind entering the NFL and staying in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, it's a label for sure. I mean, even late in your career, it's like, oh, you're undrafted. The next I don't know, the potential. They're always looking for potential. But it's like just being a guy. I tell these guys now, especially younger players going in, I'm like, find a role, man. Like, do something better than somebody else. Like, you might not be the biggest or the strongest. When I first, honestly, I was undrafted. And the cool thing about being undrafted is I got to pick where I went. And there was a few teams like Atlanta and Kansas City and Jacksonville, like the three, like I think I can remember the most, and I don't know, most interested. And I say that it was like 5 or 10,000 sign bonus here or there, so in a plane ticket. But I was like, man, I'm gonna go to Jacksonville's terrible. I'm gonna go there because they're looking to make changes, they're looking to have turnover. So I go there and I get there and I'm like, man, if I can just be smart enough to play more than one position, that can be something where I can stand out. If I just show up and work harder than everyone else, I can stand out. So that was my whole goal was like, man, where can I like don't try to be somebody else. Like stop. Everybody wants to count numbers right when they get in. Well, if this guy makes it and this guy's going to make it and then it's going to be this many, well, then I'm out, And just really watching how I talk to myself, like, no, I'm going to work harder than you. I'm going to be smarter than you, and I'm going to be dependable, and just finding a role that way. So, yeah, I think the work ethic I just think reps removed out, like the reps of facing adversity in college, the things of going through hard times in college, and then I faced them in the NFL, and I'm like, I've been here before. To where you could see some guys who kind of had things, whether it's handed to them or they just had good fortune or blessings and blessings on blessings and never faced adversity. Then it comes and hits them in the face, and they're like they just crumble. They don't know what to do, So I think those things kind of set me apart, and just found a role in somewhere where I could stand out and contribute any way you can, and stop trying to be somebody else or do something the way they're doing it.
So many lessons here. And so when you got into Jacksonville, did you end up getting signed pretty early on, or how was that process for you?
Yeah, so when I was undrafted, it was literally $5,000 in a plane ticket, and ended up making the 53-man roster my rookie year, with another buddy of mine who was a big person in my faith, pointed me to the Lord, roommate, helped me, start going to church, just kind of planted that seed for me. We were both undrafted offensive linemen and both made the active roster.
Who was that?
We literally looked Shatley,
yeah.
Tyler.
I was going to say it had to be Shatley, my locker mate.
Yeah, dude. So
he's the man. He's the man.
We live 2 doors down now. 3 kids, all the same, all that stuff. It's cool to look back, but man, we just get there and we're like, it's a free summer in Jacksonville. Like, we're gonna let them have it, like whatever. And then we end up making the team, and we're like, tricked them again, And we just had this like lighthearted thing about it, man. Like, Shatley played 11 years for the Jags. I ended up playing 10 and for a couple teams, and every year we would text each other we worked together, be like, fooled him again, just constantly trying to keep it light, but like, dude, they don't have it figured out. Like, just bust your butt and see what happens, So yeah, I got signed quick, played a handful of games my rookie year, and then ended up playing for the Jags like 6 years, got cut my 6th camp, and then eventually went to Tampa a week later. So
yeah, I know that was the year I joined, man. I was sad to see you go, but at least we got the off season and training camp, and I got to be next to Shatley for the year, which was awesome, man. Like, that sense of humor you're talking about, that's so him. And he ended up having such an amazing career, doing such a great job. And I think too, like, it also shows you with whatever you do, like, you got to have a sense of humor. Like, you got to work hard, you got to do things right, but you got to find time to laugh, and you got to make it fun. And the fellowship in the locker room, I think, is the biggest thing. Finding those guys and having fun. I mean, a lot of times in a 2-minute drill, I had to feel where the team was, but it'd be stepping into the huddle and making it a little bit lighter. It's already a high pressure situation. So sometimes it'd be cracking a joke. Sometimes it'd be like, someone got drool coming from their face, like saying something funny to them. It's just taking their mind off the pressure. I mean, everyone knows that it's a high pressure situation. You're blessed to be there, but there's so much at stake. You're getting paid a lot of money. You're doing these things, and it's a cutthroat business. Like, at any moment you can get that call, or that GM says, come into the office, and you're released, and then you have to figure it out, and then you're moving your family. Then when you have kids, you're moving your kids. So there's so much at stake. But to have those brothers, I mean, it's so cool that you and Shad are still, living in the same neighborhood that y'all were in when I was there. Having get-togethers, having fellowship. That was the thing in Jacksonville with, that group. There was a lot of guys that have a great brotherhood still, and I think the church there, you guys still go to 1122 with Joby.
Yeah. Yep, sure do.
Dude, I mean, so this guy, Joey Martin, these guys invite us to church because Tori and I want to find a local church. Man, if any of y'all out there want a good sermon, look up 1122. Look up Joey Martin. My church locally is Mariners Church in Irvine, California. Eric Geiger's the pastor. Him and Joby are like really good friends. They're boys. So it was cool. Like when Eric came to Mariners, like he's boys with Joby. So I'm like, cool. I was there a year. We went to church there. Love him. He is so funny. He's like an body, like he lifted a lot of weight, right? Like sort of like he loves go to the Jacksonville games. Like he'll have a beer at the games. Like he's a normal dude. He's a fan. But like the dude loves the Lord, lives for the Lord, and the way he preaches the word is amazing. Theologically, so sound, so intentional. The guy's brilliant, but he's so smart. He's so witty. And then on top of that, he's just like this big guy that like lifts a lot of weights. And it was always fun going to church. He had his way to people's hearts was using humor to lighten the heart, and then he'd hit you with the word. And it was beautiful. And it showed me that whenever you share something, sometimes when it's always so heavy, it's hard. But when you can provide laughter or little joke, it sort of softens that heart then to receive it. So that was big in Jacksonville. It's cool you all have that community there. And, you have this career. You go through it. There's so much in it. I think the thing I got from is, the work ethic, having that fellowship, continuing to grind. But the big thing you said was like, be yourself, right? You weren't trying to show up and be someone else. I think too, that's sort of like the hunger of someone who's undrafted. A lot of times it's not all draft picks, but so a lot of times with a higher draft pick, there's sort of an entitlement. Like this is going to be my spot. I'm going to be guaranteed here. I'm used to being in college where I'm the guy. I had a scholarship. And then in the NFL, if you're not showing after a couple of years, like they're going to move on. And even if it's an undrafted guy, he's going to get an opportunity because the ultimate thing is the team. So the biggest thing is being yourself, being authentic. But you have this career, and there's also a price to pay. I know you went through a hip replacement already. I mean, how old are you right now?
34
and a hip replacement. So that's like you have this career. It's provided a lot for your family. It's provided a lot for you. But there's also a price to pay at times. There's injuries that happen. Just talk about like being 34 years old and going through a hip replacement and what you learned through that trial.
Yeah, I always tell people, man, no one ever, you see people get hurt on Sunday and people are like, oh man, like, yeah, it must be rough. And then they're not around when like you're going through months and months of rehab with a wife and kids. Like that dark side of things, like when y'all are around a bunch of fighters and things, like people don't see that. People see people get knocked out or hurt and they're like, oh man, that sucks. And then they move on. But I mean, I went through like a string of like, tore my patella tendon on Christmas night. I'm in Arizona. My Morgan and the kids are in Virginia because we couldn't be together on Christmas. And then I have to fly back across the country. She flies, meets me in Tampa. Straight leg brace for 6 weeks. She's helped me in and out of bed. And like, no one sees that. Like, it's like going through. So like, adversity, hard things. Like, I would play at like 310 to 330 my whole career. And then my hip started killing me. I was like, I'm going to lose this weight. It's going to feel better. It's going to go away. And I did. I mean, I probably should have anyway. I lost like 80 or 90 pounds and my hip was still hurting. And they're like, this is just the wear and tear that comes with what you did. And the crazy part is they're like, you have like a flat spot on your hip and that actually might have helped you like anchor. Cause when someone would hit you and you'd have to stop them, it would kind of be like a block.
Yeah.
And you would be able to anchor and it wouldn't keep going. So it was kind of wild. And then he was like, man, what could have helped you now we're just going to have to fix. But, man, I just think all these things people go through, it's preparing you for something greater, something bigger. And I'd been through a lot of adversity. I get my hip replaced. I was like, all right, time to rehab it. It is what it is. Let's move on and let's go. It's not ideal, but the quality of life, the way I want to live my life, I need to get it fixed. I'm not just going to sit around, not be the father that I want to be, not run and jump and coach for sports. So, yeah, I just got it done. And the Bible says do all things without complaining and grumbling. And I don't always listen to that. But there's times where I'm like, man, what's that? And there's plenty of times I complain, but I'm like, man, what's that helping? So, yeah, there's been a lot of injuries, a string of injuries along the way. But kind of wouldn't, I don't know. I have things that people that never got hurt have felt, or could grow from. So,
yeah. And you're wanting to share that. Do you have anything in your mind?
Man, I'm just very inspired by your mindset. And I'm curious, is this something you had to cultivate over time? I mean, I know you learned a lot from your father. You faced a lot of adversity early on, but Were there trials that made you dig super deep and reinforce what you already thought and what you now know and what your faith has taught you?
Yeah, so I think my faith has been the biggest rock in all of that. But just on the mental side, I'm sure we'll get into it, but I started undrafted coaching. We'll talk about it later.
Mm-hmm.
But long story short is like I got to a point in my career where like my confidence was up and down, my attitude was up and down, my behavior. I was always just grinding and working, and then I would get to the game and be like, why isn't it paying off? Why isn't it showing up? And then the kids that I work with and the parents I talk to, I'm like, how much of sports is mental? And they say some number between 80 and 90. Everybody's like real high, whatever that is. And I'm like, well, what do you do to work on it? And they're like, oh, nothing. Well, what do you do to work on the physical? Well, you lift, you run, you eat, you sleep, you do nutrition, eat healthy. But you do nothing for this majority of what you say your performance is. So, man, I started talking to somebody about it. The sports psychologist for the team, other vets that were older than me. I was in year 6 at this point, but like, thankfully in Tampa, we got to be surrounded by older vets that had been successful and talk to them about it. And they're like, man, like, watch how you talk to yourself. Like, what are you saying to yourself? Because if you're just like, man, what if I get hurt? What if I lose? Yeah, probably going to happen, So it started really changing the way I talk to myself, and then just looking at what the Bible says. Do all things without complaining and grumbling, and God didn't give you a spirit of fear, but of power and love and self-discipline, and work heartily as for the Lord and not for men. Like, and you read it, and I was saying I believed it, but I wouldn't say you would look at my life and be like, that matches. I could say it all day, and so I still struggle, man. I still have to remind myself every day, like, why are you complaining, or why are you fearful of this outcome? And I'm just trying to make my life line up with what I say I believe, because we can believe that the chair we're sitting in is going to hold us, but we don't believe in it until I sit in the chair. Like, you put faith in that chair you're sitting in right now, but when I walked in the room, I believed it could hold me, and I sat in the chair. So if I believe the Lord, I got to live my life in a way that believes in what He actually says. So that's kind of been the biggest change.
No, and you said it was year 2 in the NFL where this change, finding a church, having a brotherhood, Chatley, all those things. And, before that, you said it was amazing where, you're going through all these trials and this grind, and like you didn't have the Lord with you. And it's like you look back at it and wonder, how was I able to do this? And at the same time, you realize God was also planting seeds in your life through different people and different experiences to eventually present you with an opportunity where you gave your life to Him in year 2. And just talk about that, perspective shift and like what that meant to you. Because, the way you speak and the way you see and the way you live life, you're leaning on the Word. The Word is the living Word of God through the Scripture that He gave to us as an example. And we aren't, like you said, you don't always listen to it. You fall short. I think that's important for people to hear. This is a believer in Christ. This is a Christian where he's saying like he makes mistakes. It's hard sometimes because you are human, right?
Yes.
Jesus is the only perfect human that came down as God and died for us on the cross. But what you're saying is, I'm living for this. I'm trying to speak positive things in my life. I'm trying to meditate on the words in my heart so that my actions follow that. I'm trying to believe as if I believe I'm sitting in this chair, that it will hold me. But you also have to exercise that faith, right? Faith is not just sitting there reading the Bible. Faith is not just listening to Christian music. Faith is not just watching Christian shows and Christian movies. Faith is living it out. And what was your biggest shift from when you became a believer from before that you realized throughout your life, and like what you see now? And then, I think that's the big thing for a lot of people is like, what's that shift, and how do you exercise that daily? Like, what are your intentions daily to follow the Lord?
Yeah, I think so. My whole life, I thought that being a Christian was like a suit and tie, and like couldn't raise their voice, and not very tough, and all this stuff. And so I was like, I don't want any part of that. If that's Christianity, I'm out. Yeah. That's not what I want to do. That's not how I'm wired. That's not how I live my life. And then all this to be said, the big shift for me was I get to the NFL. I didn't grow up with a whole lot. I had the things I needed. I get to the NFL and I'm making more, 5 times the amount of money my mom and dad make combined. And I got a truck and an apartment and I got all this stuff. And then Joby at 1122, he preaches a sermon. He's like, and he's, like I said, big, tough dude, done cool things, hunts, kills things. And I'm like, I like doing all of that stuff.
Yeah.
He preached this sermon. He's like, you ever climbed up a ladder and then realized it's against the wrong wall? And in the NFL, you're at the top of the ladder, man. You're like, where are you going to go? And then you look over and you're like, I think I'm up the wrong wall. This is the wall where I'm supposed to be. So I'd had everything that I thought could ever earn, worldly things, and I was miserable. And I'm like, why am I sitting here in the middle of my rookie season with all these things? I proved everybody wrong. I made the team. I got the money. And then I'm just like, I'm depressed. And I'm like, this sucks. And he preached that sermon, man. And then I'm not saying the sermon saved me, but there was a thing where I was like, I'm going to run down this thing now. I'm going to use the same work ethic I used to get here. And now let me just run down this rabbit hole and see where it leads me. And it led me right to Christ. Like, it was, this stuff will never satisfy you. He can use all things for good for those who love and are called according to his purpose. Like, he used a good thing in my life, thankfully. Sometimes he has to break people, and it's like he blessed me, break me or bless me, whatever brings me closer to you. And somehow the blessing, what a good father, that a blessing is what brought me to him. And so that was a shift in my life, man, was almost getting everything that I thought I wanted to realize I had nothing. But yeah, and then just seeing men act like men. It's like 1 Corinthians 16:13. It's just like, be watchful, stand firm, act like men, be strong, and all those things. And I'm like, that's not the Christianity I'd ever heard about.
Yeah.
And then I finally heard the gospel preached the way it was, and then, started reading the word and diving down and using all that drive to figure out what it said for me,
So powerful. And just the latter thing, that's Rowdy's my business partner at Change for Balance. And we use that analogy sometimes, like when we're working really hard, are we climbing the right mountain right now? Yeah. And just to take stock of that and reflect on that is really powerful, I think, for a lot of people.
No, I think too, just Joe, like you going to church and seeing Joe be a guy that is a pastor that lives for the Lord, that preaches the word, but you're like, he looks like me, he acts like me. Both him and Eric Geiger do an amazing job of preaching that way, where they meet people and show like their flaws, or like show different things, like they're human, but they also live for the Lord and know that that's their calling and what they're doing. But they also like do things that you can relate to, and it's impactful. I mean, for me in college, that was my strength coach, Coach Ed at Arizona. I mean, he was the first real example of a guy who's a Christian, who taught our Bible study, but was also this tough dude that I aspired to be like, with how he, was a strength coach to us, how he pushed us, how he never backed down. But he was always modeling Christ, but it was like a ferocious, like intense way. But it was just such a different thing that really impacted my faith. And it was really awesome to see. So kudos to, Joby out there. And I think just seeing like where you are, I mean, that seed was planted in your life to where you're getting to carry this on. And that's why I want to get into, like, okay, you play in the NFL. This is like who Joss is. This is the work ethic, this believer in Christ on this journey. But you wanted to do something more. You wanted to do undrafted coaching. And I've really enjoyed what you're doing with social media and how you're doing it. And it's so impactful. And it's one of those things that we talk about with the podcast and with the brand. It's not a race. It's a marathon, man. It's like intentional. Every single day, stack that brick. Every single day, work to be impactful. We're trying to build a community. You're trying to build a community. Talk about undrafted coaching and like where the heart for that is and what you're trying to do with it.
Yeah. So discipleship's at the heart of it. I look back at my life, my career, my life, and it's a cool story, man. Undrafted, walk on. But in high school, my goal was scholarship. And when I was going into the NFL, my goal was drafted, and that didn't happen, and that's okay. That wasn't how it was supposed to go anyway. But I look back, man, what could I have done different? And we talked when you were on my podcast, like I don't think I could have physically worked harder. If anything, I think I like overdid that, and just like on the grinding side. But I look back and I was like, man, if I could have just somebody that was like one step ahead of me started working on this like confidence, resilience, like habits and routines, all these, and I could bore you with all that stuff, but all that to be said, like we need someone you stop listening to your parents at some point, and you're just like, even whether they care, I mean, they provide, they care, they're there, but you're like, I can figure it out, and we all need that person that's one step ahead of us, speaking life into us, helping us take that next step closer to what we want to do. And so at Undrafted, I say, like, I want to walk alongside athletes and parents through life and sports to grow in heart, soul, mind, and strength. And that's what my goal is. Just through discipleship, through meeting, and like you said, through the content. I didn't want to name it like Armored Athletes or Kingdom Kids, and nothing against companies that are named that or something. But I was like, man, I want this to be for the kid who's like, I want to go to the NFL and I can do it on my own. And he's like, I think that guy can help me. Then he comes and I'm like, awesome. Well, this is what helped me. This is what I realized. And this is how it changed me. And if honestly, if all this content, if Undrafted helps one kid come to know the Lord, perfect. If it's 1,000, awesome. But all I can do is just control what I can. And I can control just being faithful, working how I'm called to work. Like, freaking stack the bricks, man. Like, because if your intentions mean nothing, it's like, be doers of the word, not just hearers. If I'm not doing anything with the word, what am I doing? So I just, like, to all that to be said, I just want to keep stacking bricks and trying to point people to Jesus through sports, and through the mental side of sports specifically.
And so does that look like nuts and bolts working on the physical aspect of these athletes as well, or is it primarily mindset and pointing them towards the Lord?
So it's primarily just the mental performance mindset side of it. And then I have a handful of O linemen that do that with me. And then obviously I can't help them all physically get better at whatever they do. There's like baseball players, basketball players. But the O linemen I do have, we jump on the field and put it all together. And I love getting out on the field and helping them because it's like the conversations between the reps. Like, hey, what happens when you get beat? Because are you going to get beat? And everybody's like, well, yeah, I'm going to get beat. Baseball players, are you going to strike out? Yeah. I mean, if you hit 300, if you hit 400, that's a great season. So you're going to strike. I mean, you're going to get thrown out or strike out 6 out of 10 times. It's like, how do you bounce back from that? So those conversations that come up when we train on the field and even on the calls is the most valuable thing, So primarily mental performance and mentorship, but I like to get on the field a little bit too.
Yeah, I've seen the clips. You look good. The hip looks good. I see you rocking the dad season hat all the time.
Yeah.
Much respect.
Yeah, the hips rolling, man. It's just, I could. They start banging and pushing me around. I'm like, you got it.
Yeah, hey, you're a lot lighter now too. What's your weight at?
For sure, like 245, 250, man. And I'm like, I'm good.
You look great, dude.
Here. Yeah, I appreciate it.
I'm so happy for you. And you're doing all this, and even at the end of your career, you talked about when y'all won the Super Bowl in 2020. The next day, you're up late and you're at the park with your daughter. It's like that. That's where this podcast bridges is. You get to hear this high performance, everything you're doing, the trials, the tribulations, the everything in between. But throughout most of this, you're a dad of 3. And Morgan, we have the mom season stuff. Moms are so important. Just for the listeners, just talk a lot about like you're in Morgan, being a mom, being a dad, starting a small business that's impactful, like finishing your time in the NFL. Like, how does that all look, and how important is that for your children?
Yeah, man, I've in like a podcast or something a little while back, man, I talked about, the question was asking, but like, how was it being married in the NFL and things like that? I'm like, I think Morgan had put up with more stuff than I did. Because like when you're working and you're grinding and like you're going to do it, it's just what you do. You show up, you go to work, you try to perform, you get hurt, you recover, you go back, and they're at home with the kids, the ups and keeping everything kind of just held together. Like I come home and I'm hurt. Well, now she's not just mom, she's caretaker, nurse, making sure my pills are on time, all this stuff, man. And like they put up with a lot, just the adversity, the ups and downs of it. So I didn't recognize that enough. And you can feel it. And you live in seasons in the NFL, like you're super busy and then you're not busy at all. And now that I'm retired, it's been tough. The hardest part has probably been figuring out how to grow a new business, be a husband that is not just gone and busy for seasons, you're just new rhythms, and then to be a dad. And it's like our number one priority is to love our wife and to love our kids first. And then this draw of growing this company gets on you quick because you're competitive and you want it to grow and be super big and successful. And you can always use the excuse of like, man, I'm going to provide. And like, I'm doing this so we can do this, and I get caught in that trap all the time. Like as recent as today, And so just reminding myself and making sure she feels valued and respected and communicating. I think the biggest thing that's helped us is just communication. Like, tell me
Yeah.
what you need me to do. I'll tell you when I'm busy. Tell you, but it's because so often we just expect like I can leave and they'll pick it up. They'll hold it together. So I don't have it figured out, man, at all. But and we still will fall short. But just communicate and trying to do the best we can with what we got.
No, that's huge, man. I think we talk about the marriage and aspect of it all. I think the biggest thing is communication. Like if you're really communicating, like things go a lot more smoother. Like this morning, I was dropping the kids off because Tori had to go do something, and then each day is a different entity. Like we're starting a small business as well with dad season, mom season, and kid season, and all that, and the podcast. So each day is its own animal. And I remember I called her, I'm like, hey, and we have this shared calendar, like a lot of people do. And I'm like, hey, I see this, and this. Hey, I'm rehabbing. Like I told you before, rehabbing from a MCL injury. I'm like, hey, I got rehab. I'll go pick up the kids. And then we got T-ball and like, how do you want to do this? And we went through it all. I'm like, all right, ready, break. Like as a joke. Because I'm like, this is like the game plan. And we don't always do that where like I call her in the morning and we sort of hash it out. Because if you try to do it in the morning when the kids are running around, you're making breakfast, they're getting dressed, then you got to brush their teeth, and the last thing they do is like they don't want to put on their socks, and you keep asking them to put on their socks, and then they like forget how to brush their teeth, and they want you to brush their teeth. You can't really have that conversation. So a lot of times it's when one of us is in the car. But even then it's sort of, okay, now I know today. I know how we can execute today. I know how we can be intentional. I know how we can be the best for each other and for the kids. Because I'm with you. Tori throughout our career, before kids and after we had kids while playing, they hold it down. I mean, when you move to a different team, like there's doctor's visits, there's doctor's office, there's schools, there's figuring out, the kids' clothes. There's so many different things. It really is they don't get enough credit. It does take a team because we then go to the facility and we're there, and then we come home emotional a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
Not every time we come through the door is a victory. There's been times I walked back through the door and she could see in my eyes, she's like, I just sit down, I got you. And I'm like, yeah, it's been a tough week. I'm just trying to get my head back on straight so I can be the best I can be. But she's always been there to be like, hey, I got you. And even now with this transition away from the game and us doing the business together, working together and doing this, it's the same thing. I mean, they do such an amazing job. That's why I want to bring up Morgan is I know it's not just you, man. As great as you are and as tough as you are and how you've worked so hard and you're building so many different things, like I know Morgan's just like a pillar right there to do it with you and inspire you. So I always want to give the moms a shout out and the wives a shout out. So kudos to her. And it's truly amazing, dude. Like what you're doing is awesome. I'm so grateful that we got to have that time in Jacksonville together. I love what you're doing with Undrafted Coaching. I think your story's amazing. How you want to impact people is amazing. You represent the dad's season brand so well. Morgan represents the mom season brand so well. It's so cool to build this community. But at the end of the day, we always sort of end with, either a dad joke or a quote. I sort of want to do both today. We always we talked about humor, right? Like you talked about Shatley.
Yeah.
So like we got a couple comedians in here, Rod and John do some stand-up comedy. I am more goofy at times. People don't get to see my goofy side a lot, but I'm a pretty goofy guy. But I stick to more of the motivational quotes, but I don't know if they have a dad joke ready.
I actually don't, but I could look one up.
Look one up, because I got a quote, and I'm glad it sort of goes with the theme of Josh and what he, his story. But this is Ralph Waldo Emerson. Just something to take home and think about. Our greatest glory is not in never failing, but in rising up every time we fail. Mm-hmm. I think that's the biggest thing. You talked about it. When you got to the NFL, the reason you were able to stay focused and keep grinding was what happened before at JMU. You had to grind, you had to earn your way. And what you didn't realize was God, you did looking back, but like God was developing something inside of you to prepare you for something down the road. A challenge and a trial down the road. And that's what happens in our life is, we talk about a lot when we go through tough things, people don't want it to be tough. And it's like a marathon runner. Well, they don't just go run a marathon. They stack those bricks each and every day, and they build their mileage up so that on the day of the race, they can execute 26.2 miles. It's not just on that one day. It's through the trials and adversities and what they put their body through, and its adaptation to allow them to grow to do something amazing. Same thing with life, same thing with trials. you go in the JMU to the NFL, now to undrafted coaching. Like, what's great about what you're doing with undrafted coaching is you're going to take all that information, all that wisdom, and you're going to pour it into these people that need it. And you get to plant seeds in people's lives that they get to go out and be impactful as well. So I just, that quote hit, and it honestly was online with what we talked about today. So boom.
Yeah. Love it.
All right, so I was able to find one. I like to do a little due diligence to find the right one, but, this was a bit of a rush job. So, yeah, Nick mentioned we do a little comedy. I want to give Rowdy a shout-out. He's playing the Comedy Store tonight in L.A., which is a huge break. He's coming up in the world.
That's good.
Okay, so why did the old man fall down the well?
I don't know.
Because he couldn't see that well.
That's pretty good.
That's not bad.
That's solid, man.
Quick little Google search. Come on.
I think a little laughter is always a great way to end.
Gotta have it.
Nah, but thanks so much, Josh. Appreciate it. We'll
Appreciate
support
you,
you in
Josh.
any way possible.
Appreciate you guys.
Talk to you soon, bud.
All right, boys. See ya.